Hello, I'm June Edwards, and I'm here to say hello to everybody. And it looks like no matter how well I comb my hair, my goodness, I get on the computer and it looks so wild and crazy. But I do want to say happy spring to everybody. And it's a lovely day outside. You can tell the sunshine is out there and it looks great. So let's get started on the second week of April. I want to start with a poem by my friend Mary Raymond, who's in my creative writing class. It's called Springtime, and here's what she said. April's here, it's spring at last. Days are longer, winter's past. Open that forbidden door. Time to eat outside once more. Time for sports and time for games. Time we learn each other's names. But the one disturbing fact is now's the time to pay our taxes. Oh boy. Well, we are going to talk a little bit about taxes today because that's on our calendar. So hang on just a minute. I'm back again and I brought a plant to show you. This is a plant that a friend of mine gave me. It's the three-leaf clovers and it was from St. Patrick's Day. And look, it's still in really good shape. And I've been planting out in the garden and watering. And even if you just have a little pot of flowers on your balcony, if you're in a facility, it's just so nice to see spring coming and hear the birds and hear the little baby birds chirping away now. So I'm going to put this beside me. So where can I put it here? I guess I'll put it over here. All right, so I'm going to put it down. You can kind of see it a little bit. Turn my turn it a little bit so you can see it. There you go. You can see one of the leaves of it. Okay, so let's start now with our calendar for the second week of April. Now, we had Easter last Sunday. This Sunday on the 11th was in 1964, the day that President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. And that started opening up a lot of opportunities for Black people in our country and others. It is also Encourage a Young Writer Day and Barbershop Quartet Day. And I remember in Whittier, they had such a beautiful, beautiful barbershop quartet group, the Whittier Chorus, that went on for maybe 30 years. It was great. Okay, then the next day is April 12th. And the Space Shuttle Columbia was first launching its crew in 1981. And boy, have we come a long way. Now they're starting to plan for landing on Mars and making permanent stopover stations on the moon. Sounds like something out of a Ray Bradbury science fiction novel. Okay, on April 13th, the Muslim holiday Ramadan begins, and that lasts for several days. In 1743, on April 13th, the third president, Thomas Jefferson, was born. And it is also Scrabble Day. Maybe some of you are on Scrabble with friends on your smartphones, or maybe you have Scrabble games in your facility that you use. And it's a great way to keep your brain going. It's a great mental health exercise for you. April 14th is International Moment of Laughter Day. And you've got to think of one of your favorite jokes and tell it to somebody. And since we're all getting older and have occasional lapses, which is okay, that's normal, I like the joke where they say, a senior citizen is lucky they get to hide their own Easter eggs. Ba-bump. And that's true. We do. and then we can go back and we can find them. And it's like rereading some of your favorite books that you haven't read in 5 or 6 years. And you say, oh, yeah, I kind of remember this book, but you get the pleasure of reading it and enjoying it again. Now, also on April 14th, Webster's Dictionary was published in 1828. It's almost 200 years ago. Who would have thought? Also, the Titanic struck an iceberg shortly before midnight on April 14th, and that was back in the early 1900s, and then it sank the next day on April 15th. Now, April 15th, everybody knows. What is that the deadline for? You remember? You got it. It's income tax deadline day. So hopefully you've gotten your taxes taken care of. Maybe one of your kids is doing it now, or you've got a tax man that does it and you're not worrying about it anymore. Also, the artist inventor Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 15th in 1452. And boy, did he do a lot in the world of art and scientific inventions. He thought of some of our inventions 200 or 300 years before we even got around to it. April 16th, the aviator pioneer for airplanes, Wilbur Wright, was born in 1867. And concluding with April 17th, it is the International Haiku Poetry Day. Okay, so that's our calendar for today. And for this week, actually, I have another poem by my friend Mary. It's not haiku, which is a special kind of Japanese poetry, but it's called Fill It Up. Nature must abhor a vacuum. It's a proven fact, they say. When I excavate the back room, chaos fills it right away. Tables buried under rubble, books and magazines galore. Though it's hardly worth the trouble, clean them off, and soon there's more. Junk and clutter in a cupboard may be cleared to make some space. Just as fast as it's discovered, twice as much will take its place. Rain makes puddles out of potholes, fills the rivers, floods the land. So the ponds and lakes are not holes. These are things I understand. Change the rules and I begrudge it. Since my taxes were withdrawn, nothing fills up my barren budget. When the money's gone, it's gone. Thank you, Mary. Always love inspiration from you. She came out with a self-published book of poems while she was in lockdown during the pandemic and had a couple friends help her self-publish it. And she's got poems for every month of the year. And I love to read her poems with her clever sense of humor. Now, it's very sunny outside, and I've got my plants here, like I told you. No, they just smell planty. They don't really have a, oh, you should see my roses. Big ones. They always say the first blooms are the best. That's true. But I want to talk to you about rain and flooding. Now, I think this year is going to be a pretty dry year, but in 1938, they called it the Southern California Deluge of 1938. Some of you were alive then. If you ever have wondered what compelled Southern California to so thoroughly re-engineer its hydrology, why did they dam the mountain streams, bury the flatland creeks as storm drains, and pave the rivers into concrete channels? Well, I've got some photographs to show you. And these floodwaters were very, very high, but they were not the highest of all records. The highest recorded history of terrible, terrible flooding and rain runoff was 1861 to 62. The thing that saved our bacon was that there weren't that many people living in the Southern California, Los Angeles basin at that time. Well, let's talk about what did happen in 1938, because there were quite a few people here at that time. And February, late February into March, the rain started falling and it did not stop for 5 whole days. 11 inches, be like that much, higher than my head, really. The rain, there were 11 inches on downtown Los Angeles and up to 32 inches, almost a yard, almost 3 feet in the San Gabriel Mountains, swelling the normally tame streams into foaming torrents. And this is before we had any way of directing it out to the ocean. 5 people died in North Hollywood when the Lancashire Boulevard Bridge collapsed into the Los Angeles River. And 10 more people perished in Long Beach when a pedestrian bridge near the river's mouth gave way. At several points along Foothill Boulevard, which was known to some as Route 66 in later years, the San Gabriel and Pomona valleys, creeks issuing from the mountains, washed away pieces of the national highway. But that's not all. Many watercourses made quick work of the few flood control structures that were there. You know, nature had made it so that when the water rushed down from the hills and the mountains into the Los Angeles basin, it would become a floodplain for miles and miles and miles. I'm going to show you what it looked like in Anaheim. This is what it looked like, and it would water all the fields. And there were streams and there were springs, underground springs that would bubble up, and the ground would just be saturated. But once people started settling in the area after the 1900s and into the 1910s, 1920s with the oil boom and the Hollywood film industry and other things that began to happen with the aerospace industry in the 1930s and 40s. Well, they were putting cement down and the water could not soak back into the ground and it would just run off. Now, here's a picture of the Santa Ana River on March 10th. You can see the town of Anaheim in the top left, and you can see how flooded downtown Anaheim was. It was all on the concrete, and there was nowhere for it to go. There were no storm drains, really. And there was no way for that trapped water to go anywhere. And it was destroying bridges and buildings and killing people. Oh my gosh. Several places near Griffith Park, the Los Angeles River overtopped its levee and cut new little creeks through the area. It also destroyed several buildings on the Warner Brothers studio lot. Where the flood control structures held up, they made the flooding worse. As the rain continued to fall on newly developed and recently paved land, the levees blocked the runoff from reaching an outlet to the sea, and it inundated residential neighborhoods and industrial areas. Here's some houses caught and running down in a flooded Tahonga Pass area. Look at that coming down. See the tiny little houses in there? The little white points. Can you see them there? Right there. Yep. That's what was happening. And there were airplanes up there and people photographing what happened. Anaheim houses were surrounded by floodwaters. The Santa Ana River was the absolute worst because it drained the largest watershed of the Los Angeles Basin's rivers. On the morning of March 3rd, the river overtopped a levee at the Yorba Bridge near Santa Ana Canyon. As the dike fell, an 8-foot high wall of water roared downstream and into orange groves. It smashed railroad bridges, carrying houses off their foundations. The greatest loss of life came in Atwood and La Jolla, where 43 people died. La Jolla resident Eddie Castro took refuge those horrible days with his family in the community's brick schoolhouse. He listened as the raging waters tore apart his neighbors' houses. It sounded like real large squeaks and scratches, cracks and booms. He recorded in taped history, which is now preserved at Cal State Fullerton. All was very quiet. It seemed like we were just waiting to hear the next crash. Two of the Los Angeles alligator animals escaped from the alligator farm, and they were released into the river and were biting and snapping all the way as far as they could go. And here, Highway 14 is crossing the Santa Ana River. And you see that almost all of the rivers have been torn up. And you can see that the water is just crashing through. And if there were any cars, they were swept away and everything. There were rushing floodwaters in North Hollywood. Flooded houses and farms in North Hollywood were just devastated. Here's North Hollywood. It would be even worse today with the overcrowded conditions that we have everywhere. But they decided to do something about it. Here's Victory Boulevard, and look what it did to the highways and byways and how the river just swept away everything, everything. The bar and bridge was taken. Warner Brothers studio lot in Burbank was totally devastated. Here's a person walking in the riverbed near a collapsed bridge in North Hollywood after the flooding subsided in late March, early April. Azusa was just as bad. It collapsed the San Gabriel Railroad Bridge, and Monrovia also had a lot of trouble. You can see these photos that were taken from the air. Well, it was bad. And here's over the Santa Clara River. Look at the flooding, and it's right up against the river, and then it gets even higher. And there's people still on the bridge. I guess they don't realize that they're about to be swept away. Wow, I don't understand that. So there were railroad bridges, and then LA was totally cut off from everybody by road, by railroad, by boat, by car, and you couldn't get anywhere. So what did they do? Well, towards the end of 1938, the Depression was still on. The federal government and the Conservation Corps, the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps, came in and they channeled the rivers. And while the rivers were dry later in the summer, they built these cement walkways. Now here you can see a stretch of the LA River, and you can see the trees. This is just 2 years ago. You can see there's trees growing in the middle of it. But what they've decided to do is to make changes so that the World War II era flood control channels need to be better maintained. They have not adequately been maintained. And the county wanted to take over the LA River channels, and they wanted to do stuff. And it's been about 70 years. So it's time for some maintenance. And so they have to do water conservation. They have to move sediment and overgrown trees, get rid of graffiti, take out homeless encampments along the riverbed, and they have to provide recreational opportunities and try to control it. And also in Los Angeles, they've built some underground basins that collect a lot of the rainwater, and they're going to store it and keep it for the drought years. Now, more of the cities along the way need to actually be doing the same thing. But we're going to leave the ongoing drama of our Los Angeles rivers and go on to another story. This is April 15th, tax day. Now, you know, the origins of the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, goes back to the Civil War, when President Lincoln and his Congress decided in 1862 to create the position of Commissioner of Internal Revenue. And they enacted an income tax to pay their war expenses. 10 years later, in 1872, the income tax was repealed and there was no income tax. Can you believe it? Until again in 1894. In 1895, it made its way up to the Supreme Court, who ruled the income tax was unconstitutional. Boy, wouldn't it be great if we had that rule now? In 1913, Wyoming ratified the 16th Amendment, providing the 3/4 majority of states needed at that time to amend the Constitution. It gave Congress the authority to enact an income tax. That same year, the first Form 1040 appeared. Congress levied a 1% tax on net personal incomes above $3,000, with a 6% surtax on incomes of more than $500,000. And remember, that was more than 100 years ago, 108 years ago, actually. In the 1950s, the agency, which has used the tax money many times for World War I, World War II, and many of Vietnam War, the Korean War, wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, Desert Storm, they've used a lot of it for that. In World War I, the top rate of the income tax rose to 77%, defining World War I. It dropped sharply in the post-war years down to 24% in 1929 because of the crash that led to the Depression. During World War II, Congress introduced payroll withholding and quarterly tax payments. A new name was given. The Bureau of Internal Revenue name was changed in the 50s to the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS. Only the IRS commissioner and chief counsel are selected by the president and confirmed by the Senate. The other people have permanent jobs, no matter who the administration is. In 1998, the IRS Restructured and Reformed Act prompted the most comprehensive reorganization and modernization of the IRS in about 50 years. It's kind of like a private sector model of organizing around its customers. So that's the main history, and there's a lot of other things that happen. Here's one interesting fact from history. In 1931, the IRS Intelligence Unit Yes, they have their undercover agents. Used an undercover agent to gather evidence against gangster Al Capone. Al Capone was convicted of tax evasion in 1931 and sentenced to 11 years in prison. In 1933, prohibition was repealed. The IRS again assumed responsibility for alcohol taxation the following year and for administering the National Firearms Act. And then they added a tobacco tax soon after that. And there's been many, many different things. They also, in the 1940s, created deductions for medical and investment expenses, and that goes up and down depending on who the Congress is and who the presidents are. I'm looking, let's see. 2001, they administered a mid-year tax refund program. And in 2003, they had another mid-year refund program. And by the 2000s, electronic filing was reaching a new high. As far back as 2003, 52.9 million tax returns were electronically filed, as opposed to only 40% coming in the old-fashioned way. It's true, if you electronically file, you get your refund back a lot quicker. Now, what about some strange and unusual taxes? Well, taxes are nothing original to our country. In ancient Egypt, cooking oil was taxed, and on top of that, people had to buy their taxed cooking oil from the pharaoh's monopoly, and they were prohibited from reusing previously purchased oil. There's no new tricks under the sun, I tell you. During the 1st century AD, the Roman Emperor Vespasian placed a tax on human urine. The buyers of the urine paid the tax. The urine from public urinals was sold as an essential ingredient for the Romans for several chemical processes. It was used in tanning animal hides and also by launderers as a source of ammonia to clean and whiten woolen togas. In ancient Rome, it was not uncommon for slave owners to free their slaves after a certain number of years of work and the payment of a fee. Slaves could pay that fee because many of them had the opportunity to work in several places. The Roman government said, okay, they required the newly freed slave to pay a tax on becoming free. During the Middle Ages, European governments placed a tax on soap. Maybe that's why so many people did not believe in bathing. You know, Great Britain did not repeal its soap tax until 1835. In 1696, England placed a tax on fireplaces. That led to people covering their fireplaces with bricks to avoid paying the tax. This tax was later repealed. In 1705, the Russian Emperor Peter the Great placed a tax on beards, hoping to force men to adopt the shaven look that was common at that time in Western Europe. In 1712, England imposed a tax on printed wallpaper. Builders avoided hanging plain wallpaper and then later just painted patterns on the walls. England also introduced a tax on hats in 1784 and candles in 1789. Of course, we know about the tax on American tea in the 1770s that led to the Boston Tea Party. In 1795, England put a tax on the powders that men and women put on their wigs. This led to a dramatic decline in the popularity of wigs. And when you look at pictures of people in the 1800s, they're not wearing those white wigs anymore. It's because they were getting taxed. Well, what else? Maine still has a special tax on blueberries. Pennsylvania has a tax on coin-operated vacuum machines at gas stations. Excuse me. And there's many more taxes that we could go into. I think we'll take a look at this some more next week. But my time is up for this week. Taxes is a big subject. I hope the rest of your week is wonderful. And I look forward to talking to you some more next week. There's going to be some news soon about when our colleges are opening back up for in-person visits. Have a great day and stay safe. Bye.